the more I did that and the more I stood strong in that decision that I was now a healthy person and I made healthy choices, both in what I ate and what I drank and the way that I exercised and moved and all of that, my body then began to obey, and those cravings became fewer and farther between, and their intensity dramatically decreased. So that was super, super cool. Hello, prosperity seekers, and welcome to another episode of The Prosperity Approach. I am excited to bring this episode to you today because we're going to shift gears just a little bit and talk about the health aspect of the 4 cornerstones of prosperity. To me, those 4 cornerstones are your finances, your health or fitness, your relationships, and your level of spirituality, your connection with God. And I wanted to talk about health for a little while because one of the questions that I get more often than almost anything is, how did you lose the weight? How did you lose the weight? What did you do in order to lose the weight? And I certainly can appreciate that question. Anytime that I had, met somebody who had lost a lot of weight, I wanted to know what their secret was, because we're always looking for a secret way around it so that it makes it easier, so that it makes it more enjoyable, more pleasurable, and all of that. In fact, I found it really fascinating when I first made all of the big shifts after really developing the prosperity approach and implementing that. And I would speak at different conferences and I would tell them my story about how we went from bankrupt to $232,000 in 6 months, and the experience I had with that it was fun and it was pleasurable and it was stretchy and there was growth involved, but it was no longer that clawing your way up the mountainside in the dark in a thunderstorm and feeling like you're naked and exposed. And I also shared with them during this same time, I released 45 pounds, and it took me about 4.5 months to do it. And it was easy and it was fun and it was pleasurable and it just kind of melted off. And I found something really fascinating. When I would tell people about the money, the audience was pretty quiet. But when I would tell them about the weight, they would burst into applause. And I thought that was just so fascinating. And I know it's because of the conditioning we've had around money. Like, do we say good for you for making lots of money? Because, how do we feel about money? But weight, we're okay to celebrate, any of those milestones that we have with weight. And it was very interesting too, because as I pointed that out, the more times I spoke, the more people would celebrate with me with both of those things, with, getting our money turned around and also the whole weight issue. And so I wanted to tell you how I lost the weight, how I was able to release that, because there is a secret. There is definitely a secret to releasing weight and doing it in a way that is aligned with you and the experience that you want to have. And you have so much power that you can call in with the experience that you want to have as you're making big changes in your life, particularly with your identity and with your weight, with your health, with your relationships, like all of those things. It's astounding how powerful we are to redesign our reality, but to influence the experience we have as we're doing the redesign. So let me back up before I just dive into everything that I did and all of the pieces that I put into place for this experience. I'm 5'2", so I'm not very tall. In fact, when people meet me for the first time, they're like, "Oh, you're a whole lot smaller than I pictured you would be." Well, yeah, it's because we're online and I'm sitting down, but I am not a very tall stature. I tell people, well, powerful things come in the smallest packages. But anyway, I remember as I was building my business and doing it in the scarcity approach, not the prosperity approach, and just all of the struggle and all of the fear and all of the anxiety that I had with it. And it was so hard because I didn't know how to think. I didn't know how to process. I didn't have the right beliefs to support me in scaling the way that I scaled, of the speed with which I scaled. And I was so afraid I was going to fall, so afraid I was going to fall all the time. And I make a joke about it, but it really is a literal truth. Your body wants to support you in any way that it can. And I was really afraid to fall because that landing was going to hurt. So what better way to cushion my fall than to pack an extra 45 pounds on my butt? And I got to a point where I was about 170 pounds at 5'2". I was a little chunkadunk, people. And though our bodies are beautiful and our bodies are magnificent and they are miraculous and such a blessing, regardless of the size, the shape, the weight that we're at, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel attractive. I didn't feel like I was really authentically me. I didn't feel that I was in integrity with who I really am and who I really was. And I remember reading a meme that said, men think that women's biggest dream is to find the perfect man, but that's false. Women's biggest dream is to eat anything we want and to not get fat. And I was like, sing it, sister. That's exactly how I feel. Now, I'm married to a really amazing man, but I do remember totally resonating with that. Like the injustice and the outrage that I felt at not being able to eat whatever I wanted in whatever quantities I desired and to be able to maintain the weight that I had in high school was just so unfair to me. And I would be so righteously indignant about that. Never mind that I was in my 30s and then my 40s and my metabolism was changing as I was changing and I was not eating foods or living a lifestyle that would lend to 117 pounds or 125 pounds or feeling fully energized and feeling vibrant all day. I was not doing the things, and most importantly, I was not thinking the thoughts that led to those kinds of results. I remember feeling a lot of self-loathing. And if you've had any sort of body image issues, I know that you know exactly what that's like. I would just hate myself as I would down peanut M&Ms were my go-to comfort foods. And I joke with people that, you don't weigh 170 pounds and be 5'2" by drinking a gallon of water every day and snacking on carrots. It's called peanut M&Ms and a Costco card. And I had this big, wild love affair with chocolate and with rich foods to comfort me as I was doing something that was so wildly outside my comfort zone at the time. I found myself hiding behind other people in pictures. I was wearing baggy clothes. I was, when I would take my picture, I would stick my neck out so that I could have less of a double chin, trying to do all of these little tricks, always sucking it in, but it didn't ever seem to go anywhere. I mean, I was trying to do all of these things except love me for where I was and be okay with where I was. And that was probably the first thing that needed to shift before I could release any of it, was loving myself exactly where I was, 170 pounds and all. And as I would shower, I would start to just talk to different parts of my body, like arms, I love you so much. You're so strong. And you've carried children when they're small, and you carry groceries, and you carry all of these, you carry books, and you carry all these things, and you're so strong, and I love you. And I would start with those things that were easy on me, my ankles, my feet, my wrists, my hands, my arms, and then some of those other parts of my body that I had some problems with, my belly, my hips, my butt, my thighs, my breasts. But I had to start loving myself exactly where I was and start really appreciating my body for how it continued to carry me through, even with an extra 45/50 pounds on this tiny little frame of mine. My body was still remarkably healthy. I was still able to do pretty much anything that I wanted to do. And I was so grateful for that. So I started expressing appreciation for those things about just for my body. And and it had to be really, really simple. And like I said, I did that in the shower. I don't have a problem looking at myself in the eye and saying that I love you. I have a healthy sense of self. If you don't, that is an exercise that I highly recommend, is that self-love, looking yourself in the eye and just calling yourself by name and saying, I love you. That can be very difficult for some people, but it's very, very healing and a really, really powerful exercise. But I just started right where I was and just loved myself right where I was and gave myself compassion. Wow, that was a really scary thing that I did. And of course, I would want to surround myself with things that made me feel comfortable, things that made me feel safe, things that gave me that, that hit of endorphins or that hit of dopamine, so that I could get through something that at the time was just so uncomfortable for me. And I allowed myself to be compassionate with myself. So that's right where you need to start, is with appreciation and genuine love and compassion for what marvelous things you have done and how your body has shown up for you and what you've been able to accomplish in the body that you've been given. There did reach a point, however, when I had had enough. I looked in the mirror and I knew that that was not an accurate representation of me, and that's not how I wanted to portray myself any longer. Now, this was pre-pandemic, so I was still on stages. I was still doing, all-day events. And so I wanted to put a better foot forward, so to speak, with how I was representing myself and what the prosperity approach actually does for a person. And it really was for nobody except for me. I wanted to look flattering in whatever clothes that I wore. I wanted to feel confident as I was on stage. I wanted to look at pictures of myself and just feel beautiful. I just really wanted to feel beautiful all the time. And that was what I wanted. I was very specific about what it is that I wanted. I wanted to quickly and easily release weight. And I also wanted to easily maintain my ideal weight, because here's the issue that I had. While it wasn't easy or fun to ever lose weight, I was able to do it, but maintaining it was another issue. And so I had been doing this yo-yo back and forth for years and years. If you've had weight issues, you know what I'm talking about. And I was tired of that experience. I was done with that experience. So I was very, very clear on the experience that I wanted as I released the weight. I didn't want to feel deprived. I didn't want to feel like I was hanging off the edge of a cliff by my fingertips and just, holding on for dear life. Like I'd had that experience before. I didn't want it to get harder the longer I did it. So like I said, I was super, super specific on the experience that I must have. And then once I hit my weight, my ideal weight, I wanted that to be easy to maintain. So I was very clear about what I wanted, and it was very simple about what I wanted. But where I was no longer tolerable. My eating habits were no longer tolerable. My sleeping habits, my working out habits, all of those things that my mind had created, like those were no longer tolerable. So I knew I needed to make some inner shifts if I could ever hope to maintain any sort of outer shifts or the results that I was after. And this is the problem that millions and millions of people have, because we get to the result, and if we don't like the result, what we generally go back to is the action that we took. And so we try to change the action so that we can get a different result. But our results are not they don't stem from our actions. Our results stem from our beliefs. So there's this really cool cycle called the belief cycle. And I've shared this with you before. I'll share it with you again. But the belief cycle goes like this. Your beliefs create your thoughts. Your thoughts create your emotions. Your emotions influence your actions or behaviors, and your actions or behaviors create your results. And then your results then reinforce your beliefs. So it just goes in this beautiful, beautiful circle. And so, like I said, when people get a result that they don't want, they think, oh, I need to go change my actions or my behaviors. When what we need to do is go back to the source. We need to go back to the cause of it, which is your beliefs. So I knew I needed to change my beliefs. And by virtue of that is the domino effect. If I change my beliefs, it will change my thoughts, my emotions, my actions, and my results. And not all the time will your actions actually change. many times, like when I changed my beliefs around money and my ability to sell and to grow my business and to be a successful businesswoman, my actions didn't really change. My beliefs changed a whole ton, but I was still doing the same kind of actions. I was just doing them better. However, when I was releasing the weight, my actions also had to change. My behaviors also had to change. But remember, I was very clear. It needed to be easy. It needed to be fun. It needed to just melt off of me. I didn't want to feel deprived. I didn't want to feel like I was struggling or suffering my way to this new body, because I wanted to be able to maintain this new body and this new identity, who I was. So that took me to the conference in Florida in March. Oh, that conference changed my whole life, changed the whole trajectory of my life. And remember, I was rooming with strangers. I had never met them before. I was doing everything I could to save money. And so I roomed with some absolute strangers. And one of the women was just this beautiful, thin, blonde woman. She was in her late 50s, early 60s. And she was just beautiful, beautiful and gracious. And I talked with her and I said, tell me your secret, right? How are you just this late 50s, early 60s, and you've got just such a beautiful physique and you're healthy and you're vibrant. And she said, have a mantra. And I was like, really? I have a mantra? And she said, yes, I have a mantra. And it's very short. It's just 4 lines. And my mantra was, I eat clean. She wanted to weigh 125 pounds. I weigh 125 pounds. My body is toned all over and my belly is flat. And that's what I tell myself all the time. I tell it to myself all day long, in the shower, when I'm driving, when I'm cooking, when I'm getting ready for my day. I just would chant this mantra in my mind, sometimes out loud, all the time. And she said, but then you got to watch, because it takes about a week and a half to 2 weeks. But if you'll consistently chant this mantra or think this mantra, watch what opportunities come in your life and watch what people come into your life to help you to now create the physical expression of this mantra. And of course, I was very intrigued by that, because I knew that my thoughts and my beliefs was what had been getting in my way for the results that I wanted. So of course, I was going to try anything. And so I started that mantra. I eat clean. I weigh 125 pounds. My body is toned all over and my belly is flat. And I just chanted that and talked about it all the time. Now, ladies and gents, I was close to 170 pounds when I was saying this. And so I wasn't eating healthy. I did not weigh 125 pounds. In fact, that felt like a pipe dream at that point in my life. My body was not toned. I certainly did not have a flat belly. So none of that was true in that reality. But remember, we're all about the prosperity approach, and we're all about redesigning our reality. And this was going to go into the redesign. And so I started that mantra and just started repeating it to myself. I kind of marched to it a little bit. I made a little song. I would sing to it. Just very, very simple, very straightforward, short little sentences so that it was easy for me to remember. And it was very interesting what happened, because it didn't take very long, just a couple of days actually. And when my body would kick in with a craving, like, we need peanut M&Ms stat, because I had spent so much of my time in this mantra, my brain would automatically flip to, but that's not eating healthy. And we eat healthy. And we eat food in the correct proportions. So let's just go have some more water, and we're not going to eat those peanut M&Ms. Because that's not what healthy people do, and I'm a healthy person. And so what that mantra had done is made me start to shift my identity so that I identified more with healthy people. Now, was my body thrilled that my mind was coming up with this, this counter offense to this, we need to eat sugar right now kind of a play? No, my body was not happy with that at all. I remember feeling a little bit like, So I felt my body kind of rebelling against that. But always, as my mind was firm, we are a healthy person, and healthy people, as a matter of course, don't put all of this processed foods and all these sugars into their body on a regular basis. And my body went, all right, fine. So a little bit of a tantrum, kind of a, okay. But the more I did that and the more I stood strong in that decision that I was now a healthy person and I made healthy choices, both in what I ate and what I drank and the way that I exercised and moved and all of that, my body then began to obey and those cravings became fewer and farther between and their intensity dramatically decreased. So that was super, super cool. But then about 2 to 3 weeks later, I had this thought to reach out to a friend that I hadn't spoken to in more than a year. And so I reached out to her and I was like, let's connect. It's been so long. And come to find out, she had spent the previous year on her own weight loss journey. And she had become a health coach. She had released, I think, 45 pounds. She'd done it in 4 months. She said it was so beautiful because she changed her mindset. She shifted the way that she processed about food and, processed about information about the world around her. And like the weight just melted off. And I was like, holy cow. And she said, and this is what I do now. I'm a health coach and I have my health program. And I thought, holy cow, this mantra thing is working as I'm changing my beliefs and I'm changing my thoughts. Look at what is falling into place here. Look at the people who have come in. Look at the opportunity that has come in. And here's the thing. When you ask the specific question, you get specific answers. And so what I had put out in the universe was, I want this to be easy. I want this to be fun. I want it to be fast. And I want it to be easy to maintain. Like it had to tick those boxes. I was not going to starve myself to this. I was not going to yo-yo anymore. I was no longer available to that kind of an experience as I was releasing all of this weight. And as I was talking to her, I was like, here's the answer. Holy cow, here's the answer. And then it was the kicker, all right, how much is it going to cost? Because here's the thing about health programs and diets. They all work. They all work. The reason why they don't last is that we don't have beliefs that then can give us the results that we're after in the long run. We're just here for that quick fix, right? But all we need to do is change our beliefs. And then all the results will change and we'll be able to maintain those results that we're after. But you've got to trust. You got to trust when the question is answered and it feels aligned to you, you must move forward. You must say yes and be willing to stretch, be willing to be a little bit uncomfortable. Your dreams are worth that. Your health is absolutely worth that. And so she told me the experience she had, which is exactly the experience that I wanted to have. But the thing that was so great about it is that now I had somebody who was going to walk that path with me, because it wasn't just like read this book or like order this food or whatever. She was like, I'm going to check in with you every day for the first couple of weeks to see how you're going and to make sure that we've got the right amounts and like that you're feeling good. We've got into a mild fat burn. I mean, she was so knowledgeable and she was willing to walk with me. And then as I got more and more comfortable in that, then they were weekly check-ins or bi-weekly check-ins. And it was just glorious. And was it cheap? No, it wasn't. When I found out what the investment was, I remember thinking, is there a different way that I could do this? And the answer is yes. And yet I asked the question and this was the answer that God delivered me. And remember, I had made a commitment that I was going to say yes and follow any of those nudges and just trust that as I showed up and as I skilled up, that the money would be there and the people would be there and everything that I required would be there to help me create this reality. And so I put it to the test with this health coach as well. And it was the greatest experience I'd ever had. I didn't have cravings. I didn't feel like I was hanging off the edge of a cliff. The weight was just falling off. It was glorious. I remember one time when I had a big craving And I was with Jeremy at Costco, and we happened to find ourselves down the chocolate aisle. And everything I saw, I wanted everything. And I told Jeremy, we have to get out of this aisle right now. And it's a good thing we're at Costco because all of this is in bulk. And I'm not going to buy this stuff in bulk, but get me out of this aisle. The reason why I remember it is because it was the exception. It only happened once. It wasn't that I was battling cravings every day and that I was like, when is this madness and this nightmare going to end? It was so wonderful. It was such a glorious experience. It took me about 4.5 months to release 45 pounds. And it was, like I said, it was beautiful. Now remember, I also wanted to maintain. That was my other qualification, or my requirement rather. I had to easily maintain my ideal weight. And I am so thrilled to report back that it has been easy to maintain, and it's been over a year. I hit my weight goal in August of 2019, and here we are in 2021, and it has been delightful. It's been so easy to maintain. It's because I've shifted my identity. I now resonate with what healthy people think, how they move their bodies, how they fuel their bodies. Now, does that mean that I didn't enjoy Christmas time and special occasions and have rich foods? That's not what that means at all. I did all of that. But then I also know I get to then go back and tweak some things and know that, all right, if I put on a little bit of weight, then we're going to take a couple of weeks and get that weight off. But I get to live and I get to enjoy those fun things. And yet they're not that fun anymore. Really, really heavy foods. Like I don't like them. I don't feel good eating those foods. I love living foods. I love salads. Like it's just such a wonderful thing. And I remember getting out of the shower and I had this epiphany, and it was, holy cow, donuts don't lead to being thin, because donuts don't have the chemical properties that support or sustain a person being thin. Holy cow. But salads do, and vegetables do, and lean meats do, and I feel really great. And some of you might be thinking, well, duh, Allyson. And yet it was this huge epiphany that I can now look at something and think, is this going to sustain what I've created for my life with my body, with how I work out, how I move, how I fuel my body? Is that going to support that? No, it's not. Okay. If I want it, can I just have a bite and be satisfied with a bite, maybe two? Yes. And it is so liberating and so freeing to be able to do that and to know that this is my new normal. This is who I am. I had a personal trainer. I hired a personal trainer, and he got into fitness when he was 14. And he said he looked at what healthy people did. He was reading about what they did online. He was, reading books. And he said, well, I've decided I'm going to be a healthy person. And so I'm going to do what healthy people do. And I'm going to think what healthy people think. And I love that. And it's as simple as that. It's as simple as just small little shifts in your identity. And as that becomes who you truly are, it just becomes this natural outcropping of you. So are there big changes that you make? Sometimes, but you just make them really small, little tweaks at a time. And it must start in your beliefs. It must start there. If you're going to get the results that you want, it must start in your beliefs. You must change those. And then the people come across your path that you need, the programs, the books, the whatever it is, come to support you in that. I didn't know how I was going to be 125 pounds. I didn't know when. I just knew that I was, and I did. And if I can do it, believe me, you can do it too. I hope this has been inspirational for you. I hope that you have enjoyed this. If you would like to be connected with my health coach, then just drop me an email, Allyson@AllysonChavez.com. And I am so happy to connect you with her. She is absolutely phenomenal. And we will see you next time on The Prosperity Approach.